Walter Benjamin, Fourier or the Arcades, an essay from Paris, capital of the 19th century. It is in the arcades of Paris, during the early 19th century, that many romantic thoughts and dreams of the bourgeoisie were born. It is also in these arcades, havens of fashion, commerce, and capitalism, that a variety of intellectual minds sought inspiration and possibility. It is here that Charles Fourier first drew inspiration for his vast socio-scientific utopia, and it is also here, almost a century later, that Walter Benjamin found the catalyst for his greatest work. Benjamin, a leftist German Jewish philosopher, literary critic, and essayist, first visited Paris in the mid-1920s. He later relocated to the city following the rise of the Nazis in Germany during the early 1930s. It was the arcades that fascinated him as an extension of Parisian street life, and their history led him to begin what would become his opus, Das Passagenwerk, or the Arcades Project, a collection of writings and essays detailing Parisian city life in the 19th century. Benjamin saw the arcades as a city within a city, quoting an illustrated Paris guide saying, "The arcade is a city, indeed a world, in miniature." Benjamin analyzed the rise of the arcade as the product of several influences. First, the rise of the textile trade brought the creation of a stock of goods, and thus the industry needed a place to sell their wares. Second, the Industrial Revolution ushered in the use of iron and subsequently glass as primary building materials, but only for public or transitory use. This use of iron and glass allowed the public streets to become enclosed to the elements while still allowing natural light and open air. This combination of commerce and construction provided the incubator, in Benjamin's opinion, for the rise of capitalism and subsequently the ideas of created utopias, not just in thought, but also, as he puts it, in 1,000 configurations of life, from permanent buildings to ephemeral fashions. It is here that Benjamin and Fourier's paths inevitably cross. Benjamin, upon recognizing the utopian nature of the arcade space, realizes that Fourier's catalyst for the phalanstery lies within these covered, sunlit boulevards of commerce. Benjamin sees that Fourier recognized the iron and glass spaces as modern machines of society, and transformed this typology using the same architectonic language from social space to livable residential space, still adhering to the utilitarian idea. As Benjamin puts it, the phalanstery became a city of arcades. Fourier utilized the practicality of the covered spaces, providing shelter and a climate-controlled environment, leading to human comfort regardless of class or social standing. Fourier recognized human comfort as yet another equalizer, and therefore a breeder of harmony. Benjamin notes Fourier's psychological reasoning as well, stating that Fourier's utopia resembled a machine, with its complex organization and iron and glass structure. It drew from the factory types and machine analogies of the newly industrialized world, putting a relatable human spin on a commercial archetype. Benjamin believed that Fourier's utopia, using this well-oiled machinery formed of men, rekindled the medieval idea of Cockaigne, the mythical land of plenty and ease. The arcades, and Fourier's manipulation of them, provided the modern connection to this medieval fantasy realm. Both offered the fantasy of an alternative, better world not beholden to the laws of nature. The arcades, with their capitalist ideals, shelter from the elements, and controlled climate, offered commercial utopia, while the phalanstery, with similar physical characteristics, offered a socio-cultural utopia. While Fourier used the arcades as a springboard to a much larger idea, Benjamin's work went on to focus more deeply on the arcades themselves. He devoted an enormous amount of writing to cultural criticism of the arcades and the street culture surrounding them in the 19th century. However, his arcades project was doomed to remain largely unfinished. As the Nazis marched across Europe in the late 1930s, Benjamin was forced to flee Paris. While attempting to cross the Spanish-French border in September of 1940, Benjamin took his own life to escape capture by the Nazis. It is rather ironic that a proponent and a critic of Fourier's utopian ideals should meet his demise in this way, under these historical circumstances. It is precisely these ideas of violence and socio-political unrest that Fourier sought to alleviate. His utopia sought to restore order and justice to humanity, and the legacy of his phalanstery was intended to be one of harmony, a true utopia creating a better world.